state forward so many times with your leadership here and for speaking out so eloquently for this issue that we're talking about here tonight. And I want to thank Equal Rights Washington for inviting me to be here with all of you tonight. This is an amazing crowd. The energy in this room is so important. It has to be. This is an important moment for our state. You all know it. This is a moment that we can show why we are looked upon as a national model for being inclusive, for being accepting, and embracing what makes us alike and what makes us different. But most importantly, this is a moment to reaffirm the fundamental right we all have, from Seattle to Spokane and everywhere in between, to live and love freely and fairly and equally. This is a moment that 20 or 10 or maybe even 5 years from now, we're going to all look back on. Not just the people in this room, but the people across our state, and ask the same question. Were we on the right side of history at this moment?
Exactly.
In the same way that today we look back on our efforts on how we treated African Americans and how we made sure that women had equality in this country. We'll look back at this moment someday and say, did we stand up for what was right when we had the chance? I'm here tonight because R-74 is what's right.
Yay!
R-74 fulfills the promise of equal protection under the law. And I'm here because in Washington State, when we see discrimination, we stand shoulder to shoulder to defeat it. And I'm here because we are on the right side of history. Now, I know there's this guy named Rick Santorum who is over in Bellevue tonight. He's on the wrong side of history. Someone who served with him in the United States Senate, it's not the first time he has been there. Rick Santorum is actually something of an equal opportunity extremist. For many, many years, I had to battle Senator Santorum on women's rights to make their own health care decisions. As all of you know, Rick and his friends think that they should be the ones who are calling the shots when it comes to a woman's body or about her right to make her own choices or get her own access to contraception. So there was a lot of times in the Senate when I found myself fighting his efforts to turn back the clock on women. When Rick's not trying to take away women's rights, reproductive rights, he's working to take away LGBT America's civil rights. In fact, in my time in the Senate with him, Senator Santorum co-sponsored not one, but 2 constitutional amendments to ban same-sex marriage in this nation. Now, when everyone else was focused on our economy and bringing our troops home from war, making education better, working on the deficit, Senator Santorum, a self-professed constitutional conservative, spent his time trying to change the Constitution in order to take away the rights of millions of Americans. Well, he didn't win then, and he is not going to win this time. Much bigger than Rick Santorum. This is about all of you. There have been Rick Santorums standing in the way of every movement to bring about equality in America, and every single time they have been swept away in the tide of history. This time is no different. In fact, I know that if you all go out there and you continue to make phone calls and knock on doors and talk to everyone you know and spend just one more night phone banking and keep putting those great ads on television.
Whoa!
Then I know that on November 6th, we are going to look back at Rick Santorum as nothing more than a speed bump on the road to marriage equality in Washington. The tide is turning. The LGBT and allied communities have worked so hard to achieve equality and made such a huge difference. You know, just a few years ago, I spoke in front of the Greater Seattle Business Association about marriage equality efforts here and in Washington, D.C. And I used Martin Luther King's famous quote that the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It bends towards justice. Well, just in those last few years, because of your passion and your energy and hard work, it's pretty clear no one is waiting around here. In fact, since that time, together we have seen President Obama end the prosecution of DOMA cases. We have seen marriage equality become a reality in New York State, and we saw the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. In fact, right now in Congress, I am working to end DOMA once and for all. I am working on tough new measures to combat bullying and harassment in our schools. Such an important effort today. Change some outdated policies that say that gay men can't donate blood, or that LGBT couples have to face a paperwork nightmare when they file their taxes jointly. And I want you to know I'm working extremely hard to change the Violence Against Women Act so its protections are extended to the members of the LGBT community. On these issues of equality and fairness. But perhaps nothing I will do will be as important or as meaningful as when I join with all of you to mark yes on my ballot on R-74. At that point, I know the state that I love will be one step closer to ensuring that we are not discriminating against anyone because of who they love. So thank you all for your hard work. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for working with me every step of the way. I am proud to stand with all of you. On November 6th, we're going to make history in the state of Washington.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to do now is bring up not just our elected officials and our leaders who know that marriage matters, but some of those that are most dear to us in our community that are real lives and real people who have shared their story about why marriage matters. So I'm going to introduce you to two folks, or two sets of folks. The first is the owner of Seattle's favorite independent bookstore, Elliott Bay Books, and that's the owner, Peter Aaron. And I want to then bring up two faces that I think many of you will recognize. I want to introduce Robin and Steve Bowler, who have been up on the air to share their stories of their family and why marriage matters to them and their family, because they want the same thing for their daughters that every Washingtonian wants, which is for them to be able to marry the person they love most in the world. So I'm going to introduce Peter to come on up, and then the Bowlers right after.
What an act to follow. Not that I want to beat a dead horse. Well, in fact, I do. I can't resist adding my comment about the elephant in the state. And as usual, I find myself with a slightly different take from what I've heard so far. The way I see it, how fortunate are we? I mean, what a stroke of unintended genius on our behalf to have Rick Santorum, the embodiment of mean-spirited, sanctimonious bigotry, stumping against marriage equality. My suggestion for the most effective thing we could do to push this vote over the top, let's raise money to keep him here in this state as the anti-74 poster boy. I'll go one step further. I've got a couch you can crash on. I'm sure we'll get along fine. I'm here tonight in part because as a local business owner, I can speak to the economic benefits that ensue from the approval of Referendum 74. So let me make short work of that. As has already occurred in New York, marriage equality will bring millions of dollars of additional business and tax revenue to this state. Weddings are really good business. Furthermore, in establishing here even more of a haven of tolerance and respect, Washington will become that much stronger a magnet for the greatest possible diversity of talented, energetic people to live and work. By way of example, the vibrancy of Capitol Hill, resulting from its distinctive openness and diversity, made it clearly the most attractive destination when I was looking for a place to relocate the bookstore 3 years ago. So all in all, what we have here is a perfect example of doing well by doing good. And having said that, let me hasten to add that the well, the economic benefit, real and sizable as it is of minor significance compared to the good. I referred in my opening comment to self-righteousness, a failing which one must be wary of at all times. I'd like to think that under any circumstances, I would simply, naturally recognize and support the necessity, the inevitability of marriage equality. But I have to recognize I've had lots of help along the way. For me, it's so clearly and fundamentally a matter of basic right and fairness to honor, love, and commitment that I find it difficult to articulate arguments in support of it. Why should that be necessary? But see, I have been blessed my whole life with the kinship of gay and lesbian family members, colleagues, mentors, friends, people whom I've lived and worked side by side with, people that I admire and love. People who it's inconceivable to me can or should be treated as in any way lesser, in any way, let alone before the law. You know, as someone who works with words in their many incarnations, I'm still constantly surprised by the difference a single word can sometimes make. I had thought of this as the campaign to secure in this state equality of the right to marry. And it was only a few days ago that looking at a bumper sticker, it finally penetrated to me what it was really saying. Freedom, it read. support freedom to marry. There's a subtle but very important difference here. Freedom both to undertake the responsibilities and to enjoy the protections under the law of the marriage estate. And freedom is what this issue is about at its core. The realization that I can no more tolerate the abridgment of another's rights than I would invite the suppression of my own. Standing in this place of worship, I'm mindful of a phrase from the tradition that I was raised in. The words tikkun olam mean healing the world. The measure of a life well lived, in fact, our only purpose for our presence here, is the contribution that we can make toward the compassionate perfecting of our world. What a need, what an opportunity we have here. Recent polls tell us that the balance at the moment is close, way too close. There remains so much work to be done. But surely, with untiring efforts, with persuasion vigorous and clear and respectful, we will achieve the outcome that we not only desire, the freedom to marry the one we love, the dignity of equality, the outcome that we all deserve. So, with appreciation for the work to be done, and with all hopes for success and peace and happiness, I thank you, and I say, let's make history.
Good evening, I'm Robin Bowler.
I am Steve Bowler. We're so glad to be here. What a fantastic evening.
You know, we've been asked to speak tonight as parents of a lesbian daughter who have, as you know, been involved in the campaign. And people ask us why we've been involved in the campaign.